The bright studio lights of Good Morning America gleamed across the set as the cameras rolled, the familiar upbeat music fading into the hum of the live broadcast. Michael Strahan sat poised at the desk, flashing his signature smile toward the camera before turning to face Meghan Markle, who sat across from him in an elegant cream blazer. "Meghan, it's great to have you here this morning," Michael began warmly. His voice carried that easygoing charm he was known for, but there was a subtle sharpness in his gaze, as though he was already bracing for something. "Thank you, Michael," Meghan replied with a polished smile. "It's always a pleasure to talk about the important work I've been doing." She straightened in her chair, clearly ready to steer the conversation in a particular direction. Michael leaned forward slightly, clasping his hands. "Well, let's get right into it. There's been a lot of buzz recently. Some people praising your initiatives, others questioning whether your public appearances are more about self-promotion." The smile on Meghan's face froze for a fraction of a second before she responded. "Michael, I think it's unfortunate when people choose to focus on negativity rather than the good being done." Her tone was calm, but her eyes flashed. "I hear you," Michael said, nodding slowly. "But these are fair questions. People want transparency. Some critics say you've been using these platforms to reshape your public image rather than focusing on the causes themselves." Meghan's posture stiffened. "That's a very cynical interpretation, Michael. If people took the time to actually understand my work instead of relying on tabloid gossip, they'd see the truth." There was a pause, the kind of pause that seemed to thicken the air between them. The audience, both in the studio and watching at home, could feel it. Michael broke it with a measured tone. "I'm just relaying what people are asking, Meghan. This is live TV. We have to address the real conversation out there." Her smile returned, but it was tighter now, less natural. "And I'm here to answer those questions, though I'd hope we could focus on substance rather than rumors." The tension was now unmistakable. The friendly morning show atmosphere had taken on a charged edge, and it was only the first few minutes of the interview. The overhead lights seemed brighter now, almost uncomfortably so, as the live cameras captured every flicker of expression between Meghan and Michael. The studio audience, normally relaxed during a GMA interview, shifted in their seats as they sensed the undercurrent of friction. Michael adjusted the stack of cue cards in front of him, glancing briefly at the next question before locking eyes with Meghan. His tone was professional, but there was an unmistakable firmness behind it. "Meghan, in your recent speech, you spoke about authenticity and truth. Some viewers felt that was directed at the royal family. Was it?" Meghan tilted her head slightly, her smile unmoving. "Michael, when I speak about truth, I'm speaking universally. It's not aimed at any one group or family. It's about encouraging people everywhere to live honestly and with integrity." Michael didn't break eye contact. "But considering your history, it's hard for people not to connect those comments to your personal experiences with them. Don't you think your words are calculated?" A faint, sharp breath escaped Meghan before she replied. "Calculated? No, they're intentional. There's a difference. I think we all have the right to speak our truths, without having them reduced to gossip fodder." He leaned back slightly, folding his arms. "But when you speak your truth, it also shapes how people perceive the truth of others, and some critics argue that you've been crafting a narrative that paints others in a negative light while elevating yourself." The studio grew quieter, almost heavy with the weight of the conversation. Meghan's smile faded into a firmer expression. "Michael, I'm here to discuss my work, my projects, and the positive change I'm striving for, not to rehash old wounds or defend myself against recycled accusations." Michael raised an eyebrow, glancing toward the producers off camera, then back at her. "Fair enough, but you know this is live television, right? The public expects the tough questions, and I'm answering them," Meghan replied sharply. "But maybe the real question is why certain media outlets and even some interviewers prefer controversy over progress." There was a murmur from the audience, a ripple of reactions caught by the microphones. Michael's jaw tightened just slightly, but his voice stayed even. "I think our viewers can decide for themselves." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence, layered with tension, spoke louder than any words could. The air inside the GMA studio felt thick now, as if every molecule had soaked up the rising tension between Meghan and Michael. The production crew, usually invisible during live broadcasts, began exchanging uneasy glances behind the cameras. Even the upbeat morning show, music lingering faintly in the background, felt out of place. Michael cleared his throat, shuffling his cue cards once more. His voice was calm, but there was no mistaking the edge creeping into his words. Meghan, you've often talked about wanting to move forward, yet many of your public appearances still circle back to your time in the royal family. Some people say that's contradictory. Meghan's eyes narrowed slightly. Michael, moving forward doesn't mean erasing the past. It means acknowledging it, learning from it, and using those lessons to inspire change. If others want to twist that into contradiction, that's their choice. Michael leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. But the criticism isn't just about your past, it's about how you've used it. Critics say you've leveraged personal hardships for publicity and financial gain. Is that unfair? A faint, incredulous laugh escaped Meghan. Unfair? It's absurd. People are quick to assign motives to actions they don't understand. I share my experiences to help others feel seen, not to pad a bank account. The audience let out a mixed reaction, some nodding, others whispering. Meghan glanced toward them briefly before turning her focus back to Michael. Michael, let's be honest here, she continued, her tone sharper now. If I were someone else, someone without the titles, the headlines, or the controversies, these same efforts would be celebrated, not picked apart. Michael's lips pressed into a thin line. Or maybe, he countered, if you were someone else, the efforts wouldn't come with so much attention in the first place. That landed with a thud in the air between them. Meghan's gaze hardened, the polite TV smile long gone. I see. So the implication is that I should either be silent or grateful for scrutiny. I'm saying, Michael replied steadily, that public life comes with accountability, and that includes tough conversations like this one. For a heartbeat, Meghan didn't respond. The studio was so silent that the faint hum of the lights overhead seemed deafening. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, deliberate. Accountability goes both ways, Michael. Remember that. It was clear to everyone watching something was about to give. The tension had reached a point where the atmosphere inside the GMA studio felt combustible. Even through the camera lenses, viewers at home could sense that the polite veneer had completely shattered. Meghan sat upright, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, while Michael leaned back, his expression controlled but resolute. From the corner of the set, a producer signaled subtly, clearly urging Michael to wrap things up. But instead, he pressed forward with one final question. Meghan, do you think part of the public's frustration comes from the fact that you say you want privacy, but your actions often invite more media attention? Meghan's jaw tightened. That's a lazy narrative, Michael. Wanting privacy doesn't mean disappearing from the world. It means having the right to choose how and when to share your story. But isn't that still a form of controlling the narrative? Michael countered, his tone still measured but unflinching. Meghan leaned in slightly, her voice rising just enough for the microphones to pick up. The steel behind her words. Controlling the narrative? No, it's reclaiming it. And frankly, I'm tired of being interrogated for wanting the same. Respect every person deserves. The audience murmured again, this time louder, some clapping in support, others reacting with surprise at her sharper tone. It was at that moment the floor manager, wearing a strained expression, stepped discreetly toward the edge of the set. Another producer gestured firmly, and within seconds, a stage assistant approached Meghan from behind the cameras. Ms. Markle, the assistant whispered just loud enough for her to hear. We're going to have to cut this short. Meghan's eyes flickered toward them in disbelief. Excuse me? She asked aloud, her voice echoing through the studio. Michael, keeping his composure, glanced briefly at the crew and then back at her. We're out of time, he said, though it was clear the decision wasn't purely about time. The assistant motioned again, more insistently now. The audience watched in stunned silence as Meghan, visibly frustrated, rose from her chair. She smoothed her blazer, casting one last pointed look toward Michael. Some conversations, she said firmly, deserve more courage than time apparently allows. Without another word, she walked off the set, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. The cameras cut to a wide shot, Michael turning back to face them with a neutral smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Up next, he said, his voice steady, we'll be talking about summer grilling tips. The transition was jarring, but the moment had already been seared into the memory of everyone who had just witnessed it.